Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, famously known as Osho, was a spiritual guru who later on came to be known as the sex guru. Rajneesh literally looked for followers and spent the decade of the 1970s recruiting them in large numbers. These followers were popularly called neo-sannyasins. In 1981, following a conflict with the ruling party in India and with many other religious groups, and also one assassination attempt by a fundamentalist, Rajneesh relocated to Oregon in the US, where he planned to open his own commune with 2,000 followers. Osho converted a 100-square-mile ranch into a commune and called it Rajneeshpuram. It was supposedly a utopian society. The borders of the ranch were patrolled by AK-47 wielding guards. Osho was a man fond of luxuries and was seen driving around this area in his favorite car, the Rolls-Royce, of which he owned 90. Each one of them claimed to be bought by the money donated by his ultra-rich followers. Osho boasted very often that his devotees wanted to gift him 365 Rolls-Royce, one for every day of the year. In an interview with Mike Wolfe, when asked about his leaning towards materialism, Osho famously replied, I quote, "All the religions have commanded and praised poverty, and I condemn all those religions. Because of their praise of poverty, poverty has persisted in the world. I don't condemn wealth. Wealth is a perfect means which can enhance people in every way. So, I am a materialist spiritualist." Unquote. Rajneesh's ashram in Pune was alleged of enforcing the followers into sexual flings by the top rung of the ashram management, who were obviously very close to the Bhagwan. Horrifyingly and sadly for the same at times, violence too was used. An ex-disciple, Rosalind Smith, who joined a therapy group at Rajneesh's ashram in Pune from 1980 to 1981, says that coercive psychological pressure was applied at the inmates of the ashram, especially on women, to enforce participation in sexually promiscuous behavior and also in the ashram's notorious group sex orgies. Sannyasins in Pune were also tacitly, if not explicitly, encouraged to participate in prostitution as a means of earning their livelihoods. According to a report by WRSP, the government of India began to investigate these multiple allegations. Apart from these, the ashram was also accused of indulging in international drug trafficking, gold smuggling, money laundering, and tax evasion. Ma Anand Sheela was Osho's chief disciple, who became known later on as the First Lady of Rajneeshism. During his stay in Oregon, media reports accused the cult of holding massive drug-induced orgies. It was well known that Rajneesh used drugs, particularly Valium and nitrous oxide, for chronic pain brought on by the long-standing health problems, though he publicly denied that he was physically addicted to these substances. On numerous occasions, Rajneesh publicly bragged about the hundreds of women he had slept with, earning him the title of sex guru in the media. In Oregon, the conservative Christian families began to turn hostile to the Rajneeshis with their concepts of free sex, open marriages, and existence of aliens. And soon, what emerged was an almost civil war-like situation between the Rajneeshis and the local residents. To win the Vasco County election, Ma Anand Sheela and a group of Rajneeshes supposedly took a drastic measure wherein they contaminated 10 salad bars with salmonella, poisoning over 750 people. By doing this, they ensured that majority of the voters wouldn't be able to turn up and the candidates favored by the Rajneeshis would finally win the election. Not just this, but Rajneeshis apparently arranged over 400 sham marriages to evade US immigration laws. This was termed as the largest recorded marriage fraud in the USA and became one of the major accusations against Bhagwan Rajneesh and his followers. All these antics finally caught the eye of the US federal authorities as charges involving tax evasion, voter fraud, immigration fraud, and even an attempt to murder were building up against the Rajneeshis. Osho and Sheela in particular, of course. Ma Anand Sheela ran away and took refuge in Germany. Osho broke his vow of silence and, in a shocking revelation, put all the blame on Sheela and her group of fascists. In 1987, Osho returned to India. But when many of his followers weren't allowed to enter the country, an angry Osho wrote against the Indian Parliament. He wrote, I quote, "The Indian Parliament has urged Indian journalists and news media people not to give any space to my ideas. The American government has been pressuring the Indian government so that no news media people from the West should be allowed to take my interview." Unquote. Osho was welcomed devotionally by the rest of his followers in the country, including famous Bollywood celebrities like Vinod Khanna, Parveen Babi, and Mahesh Bhatt. The celebrity influx of Osho's cult extended to Hollywood also. The wife of Academy Award-winning Albert Ruddy, the producer of The Godfather, Francoise Ruddy, was also a big devotee. After a brief stay in India, Osho took off to Kathmandu to start his world tour. But most remarkably, he was rejected by 13 countries, forcing him to come back to India. By the end of 1989, Osho's health started deteriorating and he began to make fewer and fewer public appearances. In January 1990, Osho breathed his last breath with his final words, "Remember that you are all Buddhas," leaving behind thousands of grieving Rajneeshis who still carry on his legacy.